You know, while the Grinch stole the gifts, the decorations, and even the Christmas trees, this budget slashes hope. It slashes opportunity. It slashes support that the least among us need in order to be as productive and healthy as possible. This Republican budget slashes child support enforcement, Medicaid benefits, student loans, and so much else. You know, this is all about misplaced priorities, choices that do not serve our nation's future, put the burden of balancing the budget on the backs of working families, college students, seniors, single moms, and the middle class. And certainly the winners will be oil companies, drug companies, corporate freeloaders, deadbeat parents. I don't know, Mr. President, I guess that they're just different priorities between us in this chamber, and I'm disappointed in that. Given that 1.1 million more Americans fell into poverty last year and over 37 million Americans, including 13 million children, live in poverty today, we're headed in the wrong direction. Mr. President, this is a very sad day for the United States Senate. I hope that we can do better in the future on a bipartisan basis, and I hope that the real values of America once again are put into action here in the Congress. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
The statistics are clear. We all have said them over and over again. I've said them in Washington. I've said them in New York. I've said them in other parts of our country. But since 2000, over 1,150 children have died in non-traffic, non-crash incidents. And the average age of victims is between 12 and 23 months. They are in the wrong place at the wrong time. They are around vehicles that are in need of safety features. And in 70% of the cases, a parent, relative, or other individual close to the family is behind the wheel. We don't know all the statistics because we don't keep non-crash statistics, so we're not really sure. So as bad as these numbers are, some of us suspect they're actually worse. So here's what our bill requires: a detection system to alert drivers to the presence of a child behind a vehicle. Every vehicle without backover prevention technology, which exists at relatively low costs, has a blind spot. Now, our bill ensures that power windows automatically reverse direction when they detect any obstruction, which prevents children from being trapped, harmed, even killed by power windows, which has happened. And third, our bill requires brake shift locks to prevent vehicles from unintentionally rolling away. And many of our car makers install these protective devices on the cars they sell in Europe. So why are we not protecting our children as much as, Europeans are protecting theirs? And finally, we would establish a child safety information program that would collect non-crash data.
I am joined today by a bipartisan group of senators, including Senators Dole, Mikulski, Graham, Brown, and Kennedy, who are introducing the Military Family and Medical Leave Act. This is a commitment that we are making based on the many instances that each of us have encountered over the last months of meeting with and working for veterans and serving military members who have run into difficulties with our bureaucracies and with getting the health care and disability benefits that they deserve. The Military Family and Medical Leave Act is a key recommendation of the Commission, and I'm delighted that we have so many who are lining up to support this. It builds on the Family and Medical Leave Act, which has helped more than 60 million men and women try to balance the demands of work and family. And now it will be strengthening the act so that military families will be allowed up to 6 months of leave for a loved one to take care of a service member who has sustained a combat-related injury. These spouses, parents, and children receive only 12 weeks of leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act, which is just not enough to help their loved ones grapple with traumatic brain injuries, severe physical wounds, and the other problems that they are experiencing. And we all believe that it's a matter of Americans' values and our moral responsibility to really give this additional support to the family members of these brave men and women who have sacrificed so much to protect our nation.
As all of you know, for the past years, we've been moving in the wrong direction in energy, and now that we have a Democratic majority and a growing consensus among business and labor and, communities and citizens across our country, it is time to get serious about addressing both our energy priorities and climate change. Today, I am reintroducing legislation to create a strategic energy fund. That is a $50 billion investment into the research, development, and deployment of clean energy, funded in part by ending the big new tax breaks for oil companies and asking these companies to pay their fair share for our shared energy future. Our future demands that oil companies become energy companies and that whole new industries be created to develop new sources of energy. I think we have to tell the oil companies to play or pay when it comes to renewable energy. We should start by repealing oil company tax breaks they don't need and go further by asking these companies garnering historic revenues to invest more of their windfall profits in alternative energy or pay into the Strategic Energy Fund.
I believe our priorities are upside down. We need to change course. I plan to introduce legislation with regard to Iraq that includes three components. First, it will cap the number of troops in Iraq at the levels they existed on January 1st and will require the administration to seek congressional authorization for any additional troops. Second, as a means to increase our leverage with the Iraqi government, my legislation would also impose conditions for continued funding of the Iraqi security forces and the private contractors working for the Iraqis. It would require certification that the security forces were free of sectarian and militia influence and were assuming greater responsibility for Iraqi security. I do not support cutting funding for American troops, but I do support cutting funding for Iraqi forces if the Iraqi government does not meet set conditions. Finally, my legislation will require the administration to meet additional conditions for success in Iraq, including the assumption of greater responsibilities by the Iraqi government within 6 months. The administration has claimed that it intends to hold the Iraqi government to certain conditions, and this legislation will ensure that both the Bush administration and the Iraqi government meet their commitments. The conditions would require the administration to certify that Iraq has disarmed the militias, ensure equitable sharing of oil revenues, make the constitutional changes to ensure rights for each ethnic community, reverse de-Baathification to allow teachers, professionals, and others who joined the Ba'ath Party as a means to get a job to serve in the new Iraqi government. It would require the administration to engage in a regional diplomatic initiative, including all of Iraq's neighbors, to address Iraq's future and begin the phased redeployment of U.S. troops. We all know that this is a very difficult dilemma that is confronting our country. This is a grave matter. America's vital national security interests are involved, and certainly the lives and the health of our young men and women in uniform is at stake, and the Iraqi people's future is as well. So I hope that we can start having a discussion in the Congress among ourselves and with the administration that will lead to a change of course and not adding more troops, pursuing a strategy that under present circumstances cannot be successful.